This is an oud, very ancient instrument, and it could be that this is the kinnor of the Bible. We don't know. Not only is the music, the instruments of the temple, not only is it not known to us, it was actually intended that way by the Levites. After the destruction of the temple, the Levites destroyed the instruments and caused to be forgotten the music, because they didn't want the sacred music to be ever played anywhere except in the temple. Now, the word kinnor today means a violin. And a violin is a bowed instrument, and this is obviously a plucked instrument. But it still is possible if we look at the pictures from archaeology, from the most ancient pictures of what their instruments look like. They have instruments that look like this, so it's possible. At least it gives us an idea. Now, the word kinnor in Hebrew, it has the letters kaf, nun, vav, v'resh, which means ka-nur. Nur means fire. So it's like fire. Now this instrument is held over the heart. Right? So it's, as opposed to the flute. The flute comes from up here. The flute is an instrument of the air. The drums are the instrument of the earth. And the string instruments are the instruments of fire. But what fire is being talked about? It says in the book of Ezekiel that the Chayot HaKodesh, the archangels, had 4 faces. And each face had 4 faces as well. And each of those had 4 faces, so we're up to 64. 4 times 4 times 4. And each of those faces had 4 wings. These are angelic pictures about the grandeur and the glory of what an angel looks like. So if each of the 64 faces had 4 wings, so there's 256 wings. 256 in Hebrew is written Resh, Nun, Vav. In other words, Nur. The fire that the kinnor of the Bible brought down was the fire of the archangels. When they played the instruments in the temple, The people heard the instruments, but they also heard the angelic choir singing along with them. Now, I can't imitate that to you. That you have to leave to your imaginations. This melody that I'm singing is one of the most ancient melodies that we have in the Jewish tradition. It comes from the Judaism of Afghanistan, which goes back to the time of Ezra HaSofer, Ezra the scribe, which is the beginning of the Second Temple period. So these instruments are, in my opinion, not all of them, but these are, if we're trying to get the closest idea of what ancient music was like, to try to get what did it sound like, what could it have been, these instruments themselves bear in them certain musicological principles which they've carried through the ages. An oud is a very ancient instrument. If it's built like this, that's because people were thinking like this 2,000 years ago. The harp is built like this. So that's the way people were thinking then. This harp can be tuned. I'm going to show you this. I'm going to show you something. We're talking about musicology now. I'll even explain it while I'm retuning this instrument. This is what the instruments teach us about ancient music. Things that we could theoretically, theoretically we could study for 100 years and not be able to figure out at all what they were doing. We have no sense. What does music sound like 3,000 years ago? It's science fiction. There's no way of knowing. But if we have an instrument that is logically the same as the instruments they had then, because how many ways can you build a harp? It's a sound box. It's basically like a bow and arrow is what it is. It's a bow and arrow with a sound box on it. And we know that all the ancient civilizations had this instrument. Now, they didn't have nylon strings like we do. They had gut strings. But still, in terms of musicological sense, we can understand something here. This instrument will play 7 notes. The 8th note is the octave. It's a repeat. This is C and this is C. So we say it's a 7-note scale. I could build a harp, or I could even tune this harp to a 10-note scale if I wanted to, or a chromatic scale with all 12 notes. The Gemara talks about this. The harp with 7 strings, harp with 8 strings, and a harp with 10 strings. Meaning they had different intonations, different ways of tuning the instrument for different times of the day, for different services. If they were doing a tachnun service, they would tune the instrument to a scale which brought a person to more reflective, I don't want to say sad, but tachnun means repentant thoughts. Or if they were playing for the Simcha B'Tz She'eva, they were playing for a holiday, so they would tune the instruments to other scales that would be more suitable. Now, I'm going to show you how this works. I'm keeping the dough in its normal place. I'm going to turn the ray. Now you hear this instrument. It's a very pleasant, sweet sound. We've heard this before. But I'm changing the intonation, the tuning of it now. So this goes from a D down to a D flat. I'm leaving the 3rd. Sorry, this is a C, this is D flat. This is an E, this is an F, G. Now I'm going to tune the A down to an A flat. I'm getting what we would call an oriental sound because it has this minor 3rd in it. And I'm doing that's in these four chords, they're called a tetrachord. In the next 4, I'm going to take the B flat, I'm going to go up half a step. Now I have the same interval, a tetrachord here, half step to a step and a half to a half step. And in the second 4 notes, the second tetrachord, I have a half step, a step and a half, and a half step. I'm simply going to continue doing this into the next octave, repeat it. This goes down to a D flat. The A goes down to an A flat. This goes up to a B. Now, I've tuned the instrument to a different scale. I'm in a very strange mood. It's a very enigmatic mood now. It's a serious mood. It's mysterious. It's very different from before. The last one, I can't change it back in a second. If I had 2 harps, I can show you. The last one, you listen to it, it makes it sweet, it's happy. This one, you listen to it, you feel like you're entering a mystical world. The color is completely different. If the other one was a yellow color, this is like a deep purple color, violet. Now, what happens when I play the chords? This is an amazing thing. I get a different system of harmony from this. A major chord, another major chord, a minor chord, and another minor chord. So it creates a whole tonality, a whole, more than a tonality, it creates a musical universe. In all of Western music, we use major and minor. There's harmonic minor, there's a couple of variations, but all classical music is either major chords or minor, a major scale or a minor scale. They would only use scales like this for exotic purposes. If in the opera they want to show that it's taking place in an Arabic country, they would use just for effect. But in the ancient music, every possible variation, start thinking about the mathematics of this. How many different scales can I get out of this instrument? Every note can either be sharp or flat or natural. Each note has 3 positions. And I have all the permutations, not just of one octave. I can do it to the second octave different from the first octave. That's what it means. A scale of 10 notes means that the upper 3 is going to be different from the... There are endless number of scales. So I would tune this if I want to sing a melody. La, 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 la. It's yearning, it's exotic, it's mysterious. It goes into a deep place. La, 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 da, 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 dum, da, 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 dum, da, 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 dum. La, la, da, dum, dum, da, da, dum, da, dum, da, 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 da. So, through this instrument, through the physical instrument, the musicology or the science of music has been transmitted to us.